Zoom?
Yes, I ghost as Joan during these meetings.
Welcome everybody to the second Collegiate Learning Community webinar. I'm Patty Daly.
And I'm Lorette Payette.
And we have Katie Ziegert, who will start out with some housekeeping for us. Katie.
Perfect, thanks. So just to let everyone know, you are all currently muted. If you do have a question, if you notice on the bottom of your screen for those newcomers, there is a chat icon. Go ahead and hit that chat icon, make your question available to everyone. I'll be able to interrupt when appropriate. Otherwise, in order to come off mute, on the far left-hand side, you will see mute with a old-fashioned telephone there. So go ahead and click that, and then you will be able to chat. Thanks.
Okay, well, welcome everybody. We will have time for questions, but certainly feel free to type anything in, and at the end we'll invite you to unmute and speak to us as well. So again, we're glad you're with us for the presentation tonight. And we hope tonight, Lorette and I debriefed after the first webinar, we hope tonight to use some still photos and some video to get at the finer points of the focal points as we work with you in the learning community. So Lorette?
Yes, I was just going to say that we'll circle back to some of the things that we discussed on the last webinar, and we'll not go into the same detail we did on the last webinar on some of the things, but we'll make sure that we cover all the focal points. And keep in mind that what you see on your screen right now is the focus of the learning community and 4 very specific goals. Getting better in each of these areas, one call at a time. We talked about positioning, and we will review some situations. Those of you that were on the last webinar, if you have continuing questions that haven't been answered, let us know either through the chat or raising or unmuting and speaking to us. As far as communication, we'll be talking about the balance of being responsive, being concise and clear, and understanding how your mechanics play into communication. An age-old warning, do not go looking for trouble, don't overreact, and when everyone else is loud, we don't want to be loud. So if emotions get high, we go low. And that's a really important thing to remember, being calm, being a listener, and we're going to go over some words that you can use on the slide line during our webinar tonight.
So in looking at this slide, one of the things that I would hope you would do is kind of take these 4 points into each game with you this season. And you can work with these points a lot of ways. Now, certainly during the game, go call your game. But in terms of getting feedback, that's one key way to get better. Think about talking with your partners about your positioning. Talk about being specific about that in terms of your trail positioning, your lead positioning, your positioning in transition, and get feedback about that after each game or at some points during the season. Talk to your partners about consistent foul identification as a crew. Hopefully that's one thing you're already debriefing after a game. But in terms of consistent foul identification, take a couple of fouls that happen a lot. For example, stick to body and body to body fouls. How are you doing in identifying those fouls consistently, foul by foul, call by call throughout the game? And your mechanics, as Lorette said, certainly have a lot to do with if you're in the right position and you're communicating through your mechanics and your signals, you probably will have a little less trouble. Just one quick story about looking for trouble, just as an example. You never want to go up to a coach at halftime or after a game and say, hey, coach, any questions? How do we do? That's an example of looking for trouble. Okay, it probably seems pretty obvious, but we want to put that out there. Here Lorette listed the focal points for you, and we've hit on a lot of these. We're going to wrap back into some of these, and we're going to get into the 8-meter mechanics, the delay of game, and substitution and possession clock management later on tonight.
And while we have these up here, I just want to wrap a few words around each one of them, and we'll do more details so as we go through. But the draw is about C positioning and responsibilities, the responsibilities of A and B, and how to respond to coaches in your ear about the draw when you're in the A or B positioning. Timing efficiencies, there's really 2 times during the game, well, that happen repeatedly, on which we'd like for you to focus, and that's during the draw and during 8-meter free position setups, where we can be more efficient in what we're doing. The TV media angle, we spent a lot of time on it last time. Just a reminder that thirds of the field, we have swim lanes that run from goal line to goal line. And we have the offensive, midfield, and defense thirds. And this TV media angle, when you are looking at it, remember it's very situational. It is only in the swim lane nearest to the coach's bench, team benches, and between the restraining lines. Flopping. Whoop, we lost the list there, Patty.
I'll go back, sorry. I was going to put the field up, but I'll go back to the list here, sorry.
Flopping is not a foul, it's a concept. What we want you to be focused on is how do players get on the ground? Are they put there by themselves, or is somebody else putting them there? So flopping, it could be attack or defense. Targeting, another concept, not a foul. The fouls that happen are against a particular player, maybe the best player on the team, and that person gets fouled repeatedly. It might be a different foul every time we see her. So we'll be talking about that, and you want to look at when it's happening. Shooting space, we'll definitely go through reviewing that again. There's a number of things that you can do to position to better see shooting space. And we're going to look at the backer D, hopefully on some video. Trail positioning, closing the gap, covering the middle. 8-meter mechanics, we're going to review the new mechanic. Delay of game is new. Substitutions is new. And possession clock management, we just want to review a reset and arm staying up and the wind and what situations that happens. Onward we go.
So in terms of flopping, I am going to actually bring up a couple of stills here. So, and there were a couple of questions that came into the learning community about what can you tell us about flopping, what to look for. And you see 2 points here, momentum, really the attacker's momentum, the person with the ball, generally speaking, is who we're looking at, especially around the 8-meter and the goal circle. And then what are the defender's stick and arms doing? So if I can go to, we're going to go to some of these stills here. That's a still we'll look at later about protecting the head, neck, and body. You know, flopping, that's just an example of, if you look at this.
Picture. Okay, you don't have a picture up yet, Patty.
Here we go. Looking at this player leaning in, right? Look at momentum. And in this still, you really might think to yourself, wow, this defender hasn't really done anything wrong from what we can see. She's holding her ground. She's closing her eyes, wishing herself well with this contact. And the attacker is going between her shoulders into her. So maybe not so much flopping, but looking at who's initiating this contact, just as an example. Another still, do you see this picture? Do you see a picture of a green player, Laurette?
No.
Okay. When we
there we go.
See it now.
Yep.
Okay, so here you see momentum, and think about, when we looked at this picture and we've used it across the conventions, a couple things about this. This wide stance is perfectly fine. I mean, she looks like she plays a wide defensive position. Look at the player with the ball, and her momentum is now taking her off balance. So another thing I would look at in thinking about a player's momentum and thinking about flopping is she off balance? So not only her speed and momentum, but is she off balance? This defender is, as an example, is holding her ground, wide stance, hasn't lifted up her leg to trip, hasn't done that we can see anything illegal with her stick, and this player's balance is taking her down. So think about that. Let's go to another still as we're looking at momentum. This, I think, hold on, I'll share it with you. Got to look for that green suitcase, Laurette. Okay.
There you go.
So sorry, guys. And so I think this is another one. Just imagine this player. She obviously was running fast, unless she just had a bad moment and tripped herself up. But speed taking her to the ground after a shot or something, a pass, something has left her stick. And take this player and this positioning going to the ground, and think of this in terms of a goal circle around her. We need to know how players not only get to the ground, like Laurette said, but did their speed take them to the ground? Did her momentum take her to the ground? Is she in the goal circle because her speed was such that she couldn't slow down, and so she shot or passed and then landed in the goal circle? And so these situations, though not a foul, it's an important concept, because we don't want to call a foul on a defender if a defender did not put this player down. So this is a good illustration of one's momentum. Laurette, would you add anything?
No, I would just add from the standpoint of how did the player get to the ground? That's a very important question to be asking as you're looking at flopping. So you have to see the beginning of the play to the end of the play. You can't take it. It's got to be a big enough picture that you're seeing multiple defenders around that player, and notice any contact that happens. Notice if that attack player is leaving her feet. Those are things to take into consideration when looking at flopping.
So one of the strategies, you guys, I used when on the field, especially near the 8 meter, is when I saw a player running crazy fast, which all of them are running fast, we know, running crazy fast toward a defender or toward the goal circle with no regard that she's probably not going to be able to stop and tiptoe around it. I would start to kind of think about momentum, and was that going to take her to the ground? Here's the bottom line with flopping, and here's why it's of interest. Sometimes we call a defender for pushing with her body or stick, stick to body or body to body foul when an attack player goes to the ground. And sometimes the player's momentum took her to the ground. And so getting better at that point, understanding the contact put her to the ground, or did her momentum. And one way to do that is to really zoom in on the stick in the arms, right? The stick in the arms of the defender, and being able to see through that space like we talked about last time. So just a couple of stills to get at momentum for you. Laurette, you want to start with shooting space?
Yeah, shooting space, see through the layers, hands-free, and calling it. Let me just show the layers picture, Patty. So if you, okay, let me get, where are my fields? Okay. Okay, when we look at this picture, we see, in this particular instance, we see 3 different layers. This
Did
layer,
you share, Laurette?
I'm sorry,
Did you share?
I thought I did. You don't see it?
Not yet.
Okay.
You want the field up, right?
No, I've got the, well, I can't share because you're on.
Okay. Okay, I stopped sharing.
Okay. This, can you see this field now? No?
No.
Hmm. Can you see it now?
It's coming.
Yes.
Okay. You can
Boom,
see
we
it
got
now?
it.
Okay, good. So this area right down here is a difficult area to see when you have lots of players in these areas. Another area that's difficult is right in the middle of the 8-meter. Down here is where you see your low goal circle defenders or crease defenders, and that's what you want to be looking for there. In this area and in this area right here is where we see what we call a backer D. And do we have video tonight, Patty, on the backer D?
I think there's some in the video we're going to show,
Okay.
that 10-minute video where we'll use parts
Okay.
of it for shooting space. I think there's some backer.
Okay, so a backer D is usually combined with a zone defense. So if we have a defender here, we have these 2 low defenders, we have a defender here, say we have one here, we have one here, and we've got one that is the backer D. So if the ball is right here, she's looking to see that her teammate is going to be able to take care of this. So if this ball moves this way, this backer is going to be coming up this way to help her teammate. If the ball comes over here, this backer is moving through here to help her teammate here. So wherever the ball goes, that backer is following the ball. So if the ball comes back here, the backer is not going way back, but his head's up there. Because why does she not want to go way back here? Because can you shoot from back here? No. Her primary goal is to help her teammates in front and create a double team. Sometimes she doesn't get there fast enough, and then when she's in this area and doesn't step up to help a teammate, that's when she gets in trouble.
Laurette, could I add to that?
Sure.
And I can't draw.
Right. You can put your field up.
Oh, no. Bring your field back up.
Okay.
So when Laurette mentioned that the lowest defender comes up high, and let's say that ball moved where she first had it moved from the second hash inside on the left toward the middle. When that ball moves over, you have a defender on the ball and you have the backer behind it, usually at the 8, right? Mm-hmm. So now let's just say the ball's in the middle between the second and the third hash. A defender's on the ball, the backer's at the 8. What you have is on the back side of that backer, where that backer came from, is you've got a 2-on-1 situation that the defense is faced with. So since there are 2 attackers and 1 defender left down there, the other thing to notice, and it's a trail that would notice this, is looking at a defender playing in between the 2 players and looking at 3 seconds. So in the backer, you'll see the shooting space with the backer D behind often, because as soon as that girl has free hands and steps around the initial defender, the backer's there. So you've got that to consider, but don't lose kind of sight of the weak side where the backer came from will often be kind of a 3 seconds in the making. So that's just an additional point.
Right, she might be hanging out
right over there.
Yeah, be hanging out in here, and she's trying to follow. So as that ball comes here, she keeps moving with the ball as the ball comes across with each pass or each cut. All yours, Patty.
Katie, oh, here. Is this it? Yeah, okay, good. Can you see the yellow screen? I mean, the green screen? Lorette?
Let's see here. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So in terms of fouls on and after the shot, some of you all asked questions after the first webinar. Can you give us some idea of how to get better at that, looking at the fouls on or after the shot? We all know that the lead official has got to go with that ball, right? So the lead official is going with the ball. She's got to know if that ball crosses over the line and be aware of that. So the trail officials, all I can say to the trail officials is train your eyes to stay with the play. Train your eyes to stay with the players involved. And so back to that point about when there are players piled up on the ground, if you're a trail official, you should be able to answer the question, one of you or both of you, how those players got there. And one of the things you need to know is who initiated that contact. If there was contact by a defender, did the defender's stick or body put that player to the ground, or did the attacker initiate the contact? I added today contact from all angles because we need to think of contact sometimes like that still we just showed you. You see an attacker come between a defender's shoulders. So that's initiating contact. You can see a defender initiate contact with her stick. That's initiating contact. But attackers can also initiate contact as they run in, if they hit the hips, if they come in on the side. So contact can occur from all angles. But in terms of on or after the shot, be sure to stay with it, and you've got to train your eyes to stay with it. It's not natural. You've got to stay with it, and then you need to, in your head, understand what happened, who initiated the contact, and be able to provide that information to your lead official.
And if you believe you have something, you have to come in strong. You come in strong to communicate with your lead official, whether you're in the C or the AB trail.
And then, Lorette, one of the things we made a point of at the convention we want to bring up here is if there is a shot that has happened and there is an attacker who is laying in the goal circle.
Yes.
And you are not, and you had some defensive contact that you're not going to call because the contact did not cause her to go in there. You don't come in big with that, because if that's the fact, you're going to, if there's a goal that's scored, we're coming back to the center and there's going to be a free position. So in that situation, when a goal's been scored, you're coming in big to give help. If you have something big, you're going to call and set up at the free position at the center. Would you add to that, Lorette?
Right. The free position might, if she misses the goal on that contact, the free position might be an 8 meter. So if you're not going to administer a free position, do not come in strong with a big push signal. Even if the attack player is, if there was a slight touch, put her off balance a bit, but it's not something, it's incidental contact, and it's not something that you would penalize with a free position, and no signal. Don't signal anything. No thumbs up, no push, nothing like this.
So in terms of illegal use of the stick, I am going to pull up those pictures again, okay? All right. Here you see this picture of the head, neck area, and you see the stick along the back side of the neck. And as I said last time, in this game, this was not a whistle nor a card, and it definitely needs to be a big whistle, a timeout, and a card. And so we're looking at what is the stick doing. This is pretty obvious that the stick is being used in an illegal manner against the player's neck. So we need to know, did a stick initiate contact? The answer is yes. If we look at another picture, okay, in this picture, we already looked at it once, saying who's initiating this contact when we look at stick or body contact. This is body contact being initiated by the attacker, by the attacking player. This defender's stick has not initiated contact and has not done anything illegal. In fact, she didn't even put it out in front of herself to protect herself, because that also happens, and we call it against the defender sometimes. And then when we look at this, picture, we can see that the stick is being used in an illegal manner on the top of the back. And so we want to be aware of who's initiating the contact. Okay, and we talked at length last time about carding big, dangerous fouls in the midfield, and we already looked at the photos of those fouls. Right now, I'd like to take a timeout and ask: does anybody have questions or need to see any diagram, or have any questions for us about illegal use of the stick? Anything coming in, Katie?
We're good.
Okay. Just remind people, Patty, that slide was the points of emphasis for the NCAA that were presented at the convention.
Illegal use of the stick, you're saying?
No, this whole slide, flopping,
oh, yeah.
Base, fouls on or after the shot, and illegal use of the stick. These were the NCAA points of emphasis that Stephanie Smith, the NCAA rules interpreter, presented at convention and are posted a variety of places. So these are things that the NCAA is asking us on which to focus.
Targeting probably should be added to this, since that was a pretty hefty conversation in addition to flopping. Again, two concepts, but not fouls.
Right.
So we want to put extra care in identifying these fouls. When we look at the seat positioning and the draw, so setting the sticks correctly, once you get the sticks set and the sticks are along the plane of the line and no sticks are leaning, pushing in or out, and the ball is secure, as you're moving out, you've got to see the sticks the entire time, okay? And then Lorette added signal the possession clock start on your wind. But our point that in trainings is keep your eyes on the sticks and hands all the way out. There are a lot of questions that don't come to the C official because she is setting up the draw and backing out. The questions come to the A and B official. And so when we think about the A and B official, who are right in front of the coaches, right, they are angled looking at the circle and they're looking at the lines. And they're the ones answering questions, but they're not looking at the sticks. So Lorette and I are going to get into it a little bit, communication-wise, some things you can say to the coaches, or we can do it now.
Yeah, let's go ahead now.
Go ahead, Lorette.
Okay, so when you're in the A and B position, we put the A and B close to the team benches, and when you're standing at the restraining line, the angle that the coach is seeing, they're focused on the draw because of the importance of the draw, and they're of the opinion that the A and B official should also be able to see what's happening with the draw, when in fact our responsibility is the center circle and the restraining line. So what can you say? What you don't want to say is, that's not my call. What you want to say is from the positive, and you reiterate what your responsibility is. Coach, I am watching, my responsibility is watching, or coach, I am watching the players on the center circle and on the restraining line.
So we've got the coach. Can you see this field?
I can.
Lorette?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So here we go. We have all the questions are coming here. All the questions are coming here, right? And one of the things Lorette and I were asked, well, Patty, Lorette, can't you just have can't everybody watch the sticks? Can everybody watch the draw sticks? To which we said, no, that can't happen, because really these people are probably offset in here a little bit. And right, they're looking at the end of the circle and they're looking at the line. It's kind of that V look that we talk about, right? So they're busy. And this is the only person, C is the only person watching those sticks. You've got to see those sticks all the way out. Okay. And so you're not going to ignore, because here's what it's going to sound like. Lorette, I know you see it. Lorette, look at the sticks. Lorette, she's moving her hands. Lorette. And you just have got to acknowledge that your eyes are here. The C is looking at the sticks. The C is looking at the hands all the way out, okay? And so in terms of your draw positioning, you can't turn your eyes away as you back out, okay? You've got to see your path, and then whatever path you take, your eyes stay focused here, right? Because
and
you've got to see.
So Patty, you keep drawing going out. Good, because sometimes you have to go out. Sometimes you can go out parallel to the center line. Sometimes you have to go out at a slight angle because of the player's body position. So you need to go out at an angle where you can see the horizontal nature of the stick, not so much, and you also want to be able to see whether or not the stick is going, the butt end of the stick is typically what goes off of the line. It either goes,
you want to see a stick move out here, or conversely, you want to see a stick be pushed forward, right? Now that's dramatic. It's not going to be that much, but every little move of a stick off this vertical plane, we've got to be able to see and call, okay? We've got to be able to see that and call that. If we're going out at this angle I drew first, it's going to be hard to see, right? The same thing would be true is if we're going out here, but I turn my head away, right? I turn my head away and they've repositioned and I did not see the movement. So we're trying to key in on this plane here and make sure we see any early movement, any drop of the hands, or any sticks that move off that line. Okay? So that's what we're looking for there.
Any questions on the draw? Okay.
We're good, Katie?
Good. No questions have come in.
Okay, so we talked a little bit about this, how to respond to the coach in your ear about the draw. Coach, my partner, she's watching the sticks. Coach, my eyes are on the restraining line in the circle. Coach, I'll make sure I share your question. And so trying to be responsive, it's not going to be effective to ignore. And it's not going to be effective to turn around and give a thesis. So again, that comes into that clear, concise communication.
Right. Okay, timing efficiencies. We've been asked to consider what our timing is, how long it takes us to set up things. And two areas that we wanted to focus on were after a goal is scored and going back to the draw. So something that has changed this year is substitutions, and we'll get into that later as far as when you can sub and when you can't. But substitutions can come in as soon as the goal has been signaled. So we've got our trail official who last year was holding subs with the hand. You're looking at how many people are coming off and how many people are going on. And once the stick has been checked, all three of us are going to be checking on counting how many players are on, how many players do we have below the restraining line, how many players do we have between the restraining lines. So we need to be starting to do that as soon as subs are starting to come on. And then as far as 8-meter free positions, something that Patty, we're not on the slide that we want to be on. There we go. As far as the 8-meter free positions and what we can do there, remember that anybody that's outside of the restricted areas can be moving. And I think last year it was hard for us at times to focus on just the free position, the players on either side of her and the player behind. The other players can be moving. As long as they stay 4 meters away from the free position, they can be moving any place outside of those restricted areas. So once we check in with our partners, let's get play started. Establish a cadence early on. What's your rhythm? How long does it take you to do that when you're setting up? So that's how we can be more efficient there. And we do not want to sacrifice accuracy or getting it right for trying to be more efficient in our timing of free positions, checking the stick, and getting the draw started.
Okay, I'm going to bring up a picture just to demo something here.
Hey, Patty, while you're bringing that up, a question came in. Maybe we need to jog in and out of the 8-meter rather than walking.
I guess what I would say is, I mean, here's the thing about timing. And Laurette and I have been very clear with the coaches, and I was pretty clear at the rules meeting about this. As soon as you say speed things up, that can kind of cause errors, and we don't want errors. And so we want you to think of, do what you do in terms of walking in, okay? You see the official has walked in here a couple steps, right, to set that up. So I wouldn't say you have to jog in, do what you do, but like Laurette said, only attend to what you have to attend to, right? So you're trying to get the ball, right? You're trying to get the ball set. You're trying to get the defender behind the ball. You're trying to make sure there's adjacents, adjacents that are beside the ball. And people are running around the outside, and that's fine. Your trails are helping clear things out. They're both contributing. We never have a situation where both trails aren't in. So if everybody's contributing, you'll probably be able to speed it up a little bit, okay? And another thing we wanted to bring up, in this still, I think this is the goalie back here, right? This is the goalie. But a lot of times we might stand in front of the goalie as we step in here to this, right, to this position to give our directions, whatever our directions are. And so the coaches, this is a big thing. And as a coach, I know goalies are touchy sometimes. We cannot set up in front of the goalie. So if that goalie was standing right there, the official was setting up something, let's say at the first or the second hash, we would want to make sure we took a step in, but that we were not in line of the goalie, between the goalie and the ball. We never want to be between the goalie and the ball and the player that's going to start the ball. And so this was just kind of an illustration or opportunity to show you that. But think about what Laurette said. Stuff that's happening out here, unless somebody's doing something illegal, doesn't matter. We are all zoomed in with directing, coming in, making sure the restricted area is clear, players are clearing out, and we're getting things started more efficiently. Okay? So one of the factors could have been last year that it was kind of the first year with so many new rules and all, and that could have had an impact.
Yeah, well, getting used to seeing all those players moving around. They don't have to be standing still, and we don't need to wait for them to be standing still.
Right. So, and so with the media angle, and Lorette, I'll go to, if you want to talk through this, I'll get to the field so we can show the swim lanes and all.
Okay. So, as I said when I was summarizing earlier on the list, we're looking at, this is a transition situation. We have our swim lanes vertically from end line to end line, thirds of the field. We have the restraining line. So if you look at the area that is bound by our swim lane, the sideline, the restraining lines, that's a pretty discrete area where we're concerned about the media, and we call it TV media angle. Remember, this is because when we have televised games, this is where they are going to focus across the field from either the table, the scorer's table, or from the other side where C is. Either way, you've got a perfect television angle if television were there. We call it that TV or media angle because that's a good description of where their cameras are looking. So between the restraining lines, in the swim lane nearest to the team benches. And we're concerned about this area because A and B in transition, they can't get out wide. They can't get outside of the sideline. And it's very difficult to have your head on a swivel when you're transitioning. In this particular picture that Patty's drawn, B would be very hard for her to see what's going on right behind her, and depending on how fast she can get down there. Whereas if the ball is over on the AB side in the area we've described, C has a fantastic look at everything that could happen between those restraining lines.
So here's the ball, and it's when the ball is in this area, we really, it doesn't happen a lot. This is not going to be in every other transition situation. It's the situation that when the ball clears from the goalie out toward the table between the B and the C, and again, it's called media angle. Why? Because the TV media angle looks right through that space. We can't look through that space from out here. We're not going to administer a red card or a yellow card often. And so these are largely the big fouls here. And some of those illustrations, it happens right there. It's a weak area. So to make us stronger, we're going to bring C in. And now C can see between the space and probably, I
just want to know, C's not going to go past the center circle.
I got excited about my arrows. So let me bring her back. All right, so C moves in, and now when something big, right, happens out here, you're moving in, and you can administer it with confidence and give that card and manage it with confidence because you now are seeing between the space, right? So it's to make us stronger. The thing about it is it feels weird and awkward because there are players out here, right? There are still players out here. They're all transitioning. Some are moving in. So we've got to be aware that if the ball moves from that area across the field, the ball starts to come in toward the middle, or it goes back, or God forbid comes across, we need to make sure we are out of the way. As soon as we see the ball leave this red area, C gets out of there, okay? And if it doesn't leave that area, C goes forward where we need her to help manage the restraining line, right? So any questions about this positioning or the media angle, what we're trying to achieve here?
And it's remember, it's situational. The situation is the ball in that swim lane between the restraining lines. And typically the ball doesn't move up in that area from restraining line to restraining line. It's usually only there for a short time, and then it goes toward the middle. You think about the passes that players make. They don't want to run up that sideline because they're going to get trapped.
There's often, this is where it'll go after it comes here.
But here's the foul will happen back where where A is transitioning up to the restraining line.
When there's a ball carrier through here, a ball carrier with a defender, and there's a ref and a ref and a ref, there's a lot of open space for bad things to happen. So what we're trying to do is to just bring C in so we've got a better look, right? A better look when it's in this area, okay? So we don't want you
Oh, sorry, Patty. A question came in that's relevant to what you had just stated there was, if there are players behind the C, as you know, as we're coming in, the ball switches, are we still coming into that midfield position for the media angle? So could you talk just a little bit about see if the ball flies over?
Yeah, good question. Thanks. So we know we've got A's trying to get out of there, and she's kind of, you know, in a situation, it keeps making it C's tonight, but anyway, ref and a ref going to her new lead, right? And the ball has come over to this media angle area, which we've defined now, near the sideline between the restraining lines. So C has taken herself in, right? And she's moved in toward it. Here's what I think you should do. If you see the ball go back, come in, or come in at any of those angles, I think you want to kind of get yourself wider and continue to move forward. You need to be aware that it could go back and out here big. And if it comes out here big, you've got to be big, right? So you've got to be all the way out there with the ball, because we never want to have the ball call from the inside out, right? So we never want to call, if the ball's outside, we don't want to call it from inside if the ball's out. So if the ball were to come out here, you'd be wider than the ball. If the ball comes in, you're going to get out a little, and then you're going to continue to move forward. Lorette, what would you add?
Nothing. I'm typing a response into a question.
Oh, okay.
The question is, C, only looking to call cardable fouls, can call any foul. But what we find out there is that the big fouls, the cardable fouls, are the ones that happen along there that lead and trail need help with.
Yeah, think about, we said last time, and we'll say again, how we talk about butts and backs, that's never a good thing. So now if the ball's out here and we're between these two players, she's going to be looking up the back of two players. She's going to be looking at the front of two players. And you can't call a foul, especially a big cardable foul, unless you're looking.
It's a hard sell.
Through the space. Yeah, really hard sell. And this was a hard sell. And so many officials said, Patty, I know, I watched it on video, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't give that red card that we saw, and we could show the video. I couldn't give it from out here because I'm looking all the way across the field. So now by just moving in a little, it's almost like that shooting space thing. You have permission to manage it. And it is intended for the big fouls around the head, neck, back, and shoulders.
I think something we need to remember and we need to respond to here is that we've spent a lot of time on this because it's a new concept, but in reality, game-to-game situations, you're not going to be in this situation very often. If you're there one time in the game, that's probably what might happen. So the really important thing is that you cannot, as C, abdicate all of your other responsibilities, because that's going to be just a situation that happens like this. And then you've got to go on to other things too and get yourself in position. If nothing happens there between those restraining lines, your next focus is downfield and looking at offside. So something that happens with the new lead transitioning, and C looking at that TV media angle, that offside most likely is going to be called by the new lead because C's looking across and hasn't yet shifted to looking downfield.
So if you look, this is it. I mean, this is the deal right there. This is what we're talking about. They're not going to all be this big and bad and ugly. Okay. But the good thing is now we'll be in position to be able to see that, like the media angle sees right here. Between the 30s, by the table, both the officials are in transition, so they can't card it. And so this got a yellow card instead of a red card. And again, the coach was like, Patty, well, why didn't my kid get red carded for that? So we just want to be able to manage this and we were talking about positioning, being in positioning, that's half the battle. Okay. And so that's why we're harping on this so much. Right. And so flopping, those questions you can ask yourself.
Yep.
Those questions you can ask yourself, we've already gotten into. Know how they got there. Did a player's momentum put her there? Here's a situation that can look one way, but it's really not. Think about this. You have an attacker and a defender, and the lead official is on, she's in the 8 meter. It's coming toward her or toward the goal. And a defender goes down. And what happens is somebody in the back pushes that attacker into the defender. And it looks like a charge from the front. But from the back, it's a push with a stick. That's an example of, you see it, you know that a player's stick put her down. You're going to come in and give big help so that we're not going with the charge there. See that? And so just an example of, know how they got there, know if it was a stick, know if it was momentum, and know if it was a dive.
And just a reminder, flopping in and of itself by definition is not a foul, but it's the concept of a player putting herself on the ground. It wasn't something that happened because of a foul. And so we focused on the fouls to be able to differentiate between what is flopping and what is a foul and how did that player get there.
So targeting came up, and targeting is definitely becoming more of an issue. And targeting is not a foul. It's a concept just like flopping. Targeting is when one player on a team, often the best player, is getting fouled repeatedly throughout a game. And that the first thing that needs to happen is you need to recognize it. The second thing is you need to talk with each other as a crew to recognize that if one player is being targeted and fouled repeatedly. You can be preventative with this, talk with your partners, be preventative with players, get your captains, and also coaches could come to you to say, hey, could you take a look at what's happening to my number 12? Laurette?
That's good.
Okay.
We need to keep moving.
Okay. Laurette, I'm going to give you this shooting space to call to discuss and see if we can. Okay?
Okay. So positioning and identifying shooting space. Remember the definition of shooting space. By definition, it's something that happens in the critical scoring area. The attack must have an opportunity and be looking to shoot. And part of opportunity is hands-free. And remember that hands-free is their hands are on their stick and the defense is not marking hand to hand. They're free because they have space to move to execute a shot. So those would be the defining factors that you're always keeping in mind with shooting space. We're in the critical scoring area, opportunity. I like to say that every attack player is looking to shoot, and then hands-free. That's a concept that coaches work with all the time. It's something that we need to get a picture in our brain as far as what that looks like on the field. And then considerations, I already talked about layers and showed the picture and what backer D is. Other considerations, low defenders. So what I'm saying is we look at layers, backer D, low defenders, particularly those three, is that you have to get your eyes beyond the ball carrier and the immediate defenders. You've got to be able to see what could happen next. If a player can step right around her immediate defenders, it happens so quickly, you have to be able to see or notice that in those layers beyond the immediate defenders, you've got people in a potentially illegal position. Defender in the goal circle. What is legal about a defender in the goal circle? Defender in the goal circle must be marking somebody within a stick's length. So shooter, it'd be hard for her to be in shooting space if she is indeed legally marking somebody within a stick's length. Defender in the goal circle, the only way she can be in there is to be cutting through to mark somebody on the way out. What came up from the coaches is that the defender cutting through the goal circle to meet up with an attack player who has the ball would be in shooting space, and we need to be aware of that. And it usually happens in those layers nearest to the goal circle. Marking directly behind, hopefully everybody has a picture of what that looks like in their mind. And we can do a drawing if you want there, Patty, but I wouldn't need to share.
Okay, I will draw. All right.
Okay, so what is directly, show the lines of what is directly behind and where a defender might be if there's an attack player directly within the area directly behind, and we have a ball out on top.
Attacker.
You have an attack out on top with the ball. We've got a defender marking somebody who's directly behind. She is exempt from 3 seconds. She is not exempt from shooting space. So if she moves over in front of or within that cone, she would be in shooting space. Any questions about that?
So she might say, but I'm marking her behind, right? But she can't be in that shooting space.
Right.
So she could start over here. I can't move it right now. She could start over here, right? And move across and end up in shooting space.
Right. Thank you. Any questions on the shooting space points? Most important on that slide, if we have that back up, anyone in position to make the call can make the call. Have your whistle ready. So that means it's okay if the lead is in position to make the call, to make the call. Gone are the days, those of you that have been around for a while, we've gone back to somebody that's in position can make the call and not, belittling anybody or saying, no, you're not allowed to make the call. If you are in position, that's a key part. In position to make the call, make the call.
So let's look. Can you see my field, Laurette?
No.
Oh. Okay, can you see my field?
Yes.
All right, so just as an example, if the ball's right here, and we've got the ball coming in with an attacker right toward the goal, we've got say a defender on her, and she makes a little move around her, and we've got a defender in here, right? So if we're in position, we can make that call. The lead might see it, right? So the lead might see it, The trail might see it, but you're not going to call it from over here if you're the trail, right? Because you're not in position to see that. So just as an example, when we say you're in position to call shooting space, you're relatively behind it, or generally you're the lead, and you can see it. If the ball's coming down the middle and there's a shooting space in transition, sure, both trails could see it, a lead could see it. But if you're ever off to one side, right, and not that you're never going to be doing refereeing the restraining line. You know, we've talked about why we've got to shrink this gap here between these trails, right? But you're not going to call it from out here if the ball's over here, just to illustrate what Lorette's saying.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. And we've talked about the backer D. We've talked about the defender. We haven't gotten to much video, but let's turn on some video. Okay, Lorette?
Yep. We're at 8 o'clock already, Patty.
Yeah. So I'm going to put on some video here. And I think we're looking at shooting space here. So that was set up pretty efficiently.
Okay, there's
make sure that hand's down as you're backing out, right? So you're backing out. Lorette's going to go through the mechanics of that. What I love is look at the three officials contributing, right? They're helping get people where they need to be. We don't have a wall situation yet. We'll have one in a little bit here.
And this is where we don't want the.
Now, remember we said about being in front of that goalie? So we want to maybe step in just a 1 or 2 steps, not all the way in front of the goalie. Remember, we don't want to stand between the goalie and the ball.
And no hand up.
We've got another shooting space, that low defender coming up. We're all walking in to help contribute, even if we don't have to do much. Now, watch what happens here. The lead official sees the wall. The wall was set, so he didn't let that player come in. She wanted to go low by that white player. And no, you can't do that. They were there first, so they get to have that positioning. So that was good management of the wall. Here we've got another wall situation happening. I don't know if you can see my area. We've got 3 whites and 2 blacks. And remember, the wall's not a foul. It's a concept. It's a strategy that they're using now. They don't have to give space. We're watching for, again, those verbs. Are they pushing? Are they holding? Are they detaining? Are they tripping? And so whoever gets to the spaces first gets to stay at the space. Lorette, feel free to chime in about the wall. We've got another wall occurring over here. Remember, when there's a timeout, at least one person should be looking at the clock to ensure that the clock is stopped. I would say, generally speaking, you don't need to walk all the way over. Take a couple steps in and direct what you need to direct. That'll help you be more efficient as we kind of talk through this. Here's a wall situation. Yeah, this is good. You know, be present there. This was good for that trail official to come in to be present and assist with that. And the lead got it straight. And again, we don't care about the players running around the top and all. So the red player is already low. There's no space for another player to go down there. And that white player wanted that official to let her in, and the official said no, right? Because the players were there, so the players can be there. It's not a foul to set up the wall there. And see, we got red, 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 and then white. And white is saying, but I want to be in there. Now she's begging. She can't be in there. There's no more space. So the ref has told her, that's good help here to make sure that everything's situated so the lead didn't start the play, because that trail put her hand up and made it known she was communicating with the player. Now white got in there first, so white got low. She jumped in there.
Patty, a couple questions coming in on the wall. If a player sets up in the restricted area and another player is right next to her along that 8-meter line and she is in a legal position, do we bump everybody up to establish a legal position for that first player that was there? No. That first player that's in an illegal position, you just send her out. She can just step out. She doesn't have to go far away, as long as she's not holding, detaining, pushing anybody.
So, Laurette, so what you're saying is the player that got there to the legal position gets to hold that position. We're not going to bump her out because the other player is in an illegal position.
Correct.
Right? And while Laurette was talking, they green carded because they've warned, they've told him, and I believe there was a delay, a green card given. So management wise, one of the things I think you might want to do here is if you have a pile up, maybe go in a little further, and because we got goggles off, we need to kind of be a little bit more present in setting up a situation where multiple players are on the ground.
So while we're watching this, I just want to reiterate something that's on another slide as we go through this that we'll just skip over when we get there. The 8-meter mechanic, as Patty's already said, this official has her arm up. That is not our mechanic this year. Keep your arm down. Get in a position to restart play where you're going to restart. Check in with your partners. Arm up, whistle, drop arm. So what is the signal that players can no longer go into the restricted areas? Would be once you assume the position in which you are going to restart play, players can no longer move. Excuse me, into the restricted area.
Oops. Going back to the slide here, Laura. So that we just wanted to illustrate for you the wall and some shooting space calls. So let's get to our positioning. We've talked a lot about these things, so we'll just keep going. Here we go, Lorette.
Okay, so that's the list. The cadence to your management. You're going to.
Can you see the slide?
Yep. You're going to step into wherever you need to step in. Do not position yourself between the goalkeeper and the free position. Your arm is not up like it was last year. Assume the position where you want to restart play. Check in with your trails. Arm up. Whistle. Drop your arm. The lead official, the focus for the lead is on the free position, the player behind, and the defenders on either side. If the wall is being built on the side where you are standing as the lead, if they're building it on the A lead side or the B lead side, you can picture where you're standing. Assume a position on that 8-meter line where the restricted area intersects that line. You want to draw a picture of what I'm talking about, Pat, or you want me to?
Yeah, I'll draw. Where'd my field go?
I can share mine if you want.
I just shrunk it. It'll take me 1 second to find it. Yeah. Okay. All right. Go ahead, Lorette.
Okay. So if the lead will assume a position, you know what, Patty, let me share mine because I have a restricted area drawn on my field.
Okay. Got it.
Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, so if you are the lead official and you position yourself right here, no players can position themselves here. They can position themselves here, 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 building a wall. So if the free position is right here, that's legal. And the other thing you can see is if you position yourself there, you can see if players are setting up and building a wall on the other side. They cannot step into the restricted area. So if a player puts herself right here or here, you move her out of there. Can she go here? Yes. Can she go here? Yes. Can she go clear up here? Yes. She can go any place. She just can't be right there because she's in the restricted area. So if you are the lead official and you've got a wall built right here, where are you going to be able to see to restart play? You're not going to, you just want to step out just a little bit. You want to be right here. You're allowed to be in the restricted area. So you're in the restricted area. That's where you're standing. That's where you're checking in, and then you're going to restart play. Okay.
Okay. So, Lorette.
Yes, this is just a repeat of what I've said.
So this is basically your step-by-step checklist.
And this will be posted, so you can go back and look at this. We're not going to read through all of this right now, but it's what we've talked about. And we've talked about tightening the triangle. We've talked about clearing the restricted area, clearing the 8-meter, not having your arm up, and being aware of the wall, being aware that players can move wherever they want to outside of the restricted area.
So you've moved in, your arms are down. The minute you start to step back, no players may enter, right? And then you go through that second to the last bullet stand still, raise arm, blow whistle, drop of arm to restart play. Okay. And so here's the process for false start and delay of game.
Okay, false start and delay of game happens only on 8-meter free positions. That's the only time. This is a new mechanic. It's different from fall ball. So if you were at a clinic in fall ball, you're not doing the same thing as you did in fall ball. So if you have a free position set up and you have a player behind and you have players on either side, and let's say one of the players on either the left or right of the free position false starts, we're going to blow our whistle, signal timeout. We're going to put that player behind. So now we have 2 players behind, and we are going to have a verbal warning. No green card, verbal warning. So now we have 2 players behind. We've got the free position set up, and we've got players on either side of the free position. If we have another false start, one of the defenders on either side false starts, now we are into a scenario where there will be a green card issued. Timeout, green card. I need help as the lead. I want my trail on the table side to communicate and let the teams know that the blue team has false started. We're at green card. If the blue team false starts on any 8-meter free positions the rest of the game, they will get a green card. So that is the new after, and then we have a question coming in. After the second green card on a false start on 8-meter free position, I can't read the rest of it there.
Here's the one of the ways we were describing it to officials at the conventions. If there's a false start on an 8-meter free position by a defender, and then you set that up, why are we lifting up that there are 2 people behind? Because last season, in some Division 2 and 3 games, there was only 1 defender behind. The officials were letting the first fouler move. So that's why we're lifting that up. If there is not a false start during that free position, so we put 2 behind, right, because there's been a false start, the free position goes off beautifully. The next time there's a free position, we're not at the green card level yet. So we're going to give another warning and another warning. We're going to give warnings until finally there's an 8-meter free position and a defensive player false starts. We set that up, and then that same team false starts a second time during that 8-meter free position. That's when we get to the green card level for 8-meter free positions. So you're going to need to go through these points to get used to this process. Is there a question, Lorette?
I just typed an answer to a question.
Oh, okay. And then this should make everybody happy. We knew it was quirky trying to hold people up at certain times during the game and not allow subs. And so now this year, subs are now permitted during all these situations. Okay? So people can be subbing in during all these situations. You don't have to manage the subs and hold them up. They are not permitted during these situations.
Which basically, during an injury timeout, the only players that can come in is for the injured player. The rest of these are basically illegal substitutions that happen.
Right. So that will make life lots better in terms of officiating around the table area and looking at substitutes.
Okay, this is something that has come up that we have to make sure that we take care of. And has to do with the possession clock. When the ball goes out of bounds and there is a change of possession, you're blowing your whistle, you're signaling a possession clock reset, keep your arm up in the air And once the player has stepped over the boundary line, signal the wind for a restart. It's amazing how many times the possession clock will start when the player is still out of bounds and we haven't stopped the clock because it didn't go that far out of bounds. So that is one time that is really important for the team not to lose time on their possession clock. So the ball goes out of bounds, there's a change of possession, and think about shot, ball goes out of bounds, it's a change of possession on the end line. The ball went 10 yards out of bounds, you've signaled a reset, keep your arm up. Once that player crosses the end line, signal with the wind.
Help each other out with this. I mean, I think this is something that, in terms of crew communication, help each other out with this, okay? That remind one another that that arm stays up and that you restart with the wind, okay?
It's really important because the possession clock operator most of the time is at field level. Sometimes they're clear up in the press box and they can actually see the boundary lines, but most of the time they are not up high. They can't see the boundary line. They can see the official. Make sure you do your reset more than one time, 2 or 3 times so they see it. Make sure that your wind is more than one time, at least 2 times. And the other time you need to use this mechanic is on a deflected shot. I've seen as much as 10, 15 seconds run off. Ball is shot, deflects off of the goalpost or the goalkeeper. Players are fumbling around with it. Nobody's gained possession yet. Keep your arm up, keep your arm up. Once somebody gains possession, signal the wind.
So we want to stress, just in closing this up, communication, and we actually did role play a little bit with you, some things to say. And here's the thing, just keep communication simple and clear and concise. Keep it clear and concise. And recognize that your job, part of your job, is to communicate with coaches during the happy times, the bad, and the ugly. No matter what emotions come at you, you control your outside and your inside. You control your verbals. You control your nonverbals. You control the look on your face. You control your listening, okay? And you control being able to diffuse a situation, and it's part of our job to communicate with coaches and to be a good listener with them. You need to take the test, and you hopefully will be ready for the test. The NCAA test is on the Arbiter, and the CWLOA test is on our Stripes U. We also will post this webinar. The other thing that you need to do is recognize you'll get a mentoring email from Stripes U and Linda. Just follow those directions so we can get you connected to a mentor. We went over the observation program last time. I posted the tool today. You need to turn in your schedule. And I'm going to post another form with a link because we need it to be an Excel or a Google link. That email needs to go to Trina, and that all will be posted on Stripes U in our learning community. You'll get that information, and that's where you can access these webinars. Lorette?
That's great. Are there any questions? I'm trying to type answers to those that have typed questions on the chat. Question just came in about false starts. If a player false starts on an 8-meter free position and the ball goes into the goal, or resetting the free position. We are resetting the free position. There's no goal scored there. Let's make sure you get the whistle off quickly, which leads me to anytime you see a false start on an 8-meter free position, blow your whistle. No hold, no flag, blow your whistle. Doesn't make any difference where the false start happens. Behind the player with the ball, to the left, to the right of the player with the ball, in front of the player with the ball, makes no difference. Immediate whistle, set up the free position.
And Lorette says immediate whistle. You know, in order to have an immediate whistle, we've got to have our whistle ready. So have your whistle up and ready. especially in any situation where you're going to need a quick whistle. I just want to kind of, and I want this to be in your mind. This picture of stick on the back of a player, neck, head, shoulder area. We're going to get better at that this season, right? We're going to get better at managing that. With that, Laurette,
Yes,
I think
Patty.
unless people would like to unmute themselves and talk to us, feel free to do that now if you've got any questions or things you'd like to say. You're very welcome.
Oh, there was one that came up, a foul between the 8 and the 12, and the free position is on the 12 meter. Patty, let me share my critical scoring area picture.
Okay. Yep.
We'll just use this one. Okay, so if there's a free positions right here. And what are we concerned about here? We are concerned about how far away the person that committed the foul is. That person is behind right here, 4 meters. That's 4 meters of space right there. What about every place else? How far away do they have to be? You can have a player right in front, but they can't be in shooting space. So they've got to be off to the side one way or the other. So again, we've got 4 meters of space, but they can't be directly in front because what happens with our shooting space? That's not a very good picture. There we go. That's shooting space. As soon as we blow the whistle, we'd be blowing the whistle again for free space to goal or shooting space. So I hope that answers the question. There can be players moving all around here. Once the whistle blows, we want to be looking for shooting space because players are allowed to be any place around here when we set up the free position. What we look at is they're moving, they can move, so there might not be shooting space once the whistle blows.
Any other questions you'd like to unmute and talk about, people? Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, we will post the webinar. The observation tool is already there if you'd like to take a look at that. You will go there to get your form to fill out your game schedule, fill out every column, and you'll send that to Trina. That information is on the website in our learning community. And with that, Laurette and I hope you have a great season. We can't wait to see you on the field.
We'll be in touch.
Thanks so much.
Trina said she wanted it in a Google document.
Trina wants it in a Google Doc. We're going to